Okay, so my dad needed the other trailer, so I had to move everything onto this one. It's all pretty much dry now. About the only thing that's still wet is this seat cushion is still a little bit wet on the bottom, but it's getting close. So the carpet's dry now. I ripped all the jute padding off the back of it because the jute padding is what will absorb moisture and never dry out and grow mold. And this carpet was pretty bad. I mean, it still is. It's a lot better. You still see it's got a lot of stains that just simply wouldn't come out, but that's fine. I don't really care about the stains. All I care about is that it's not full of mold and ash. There's a good chance I will put this carpet back in, simply because the alternative is to either run with nothing in the floorboards, which is going to be incredibly loud and very unpleasant, or to try to bedline the interior, which is going to cost money and still be kind of loud and unpleasant. So we'll probably just throw that back in there, just without the jute padding, and it should be fine. The interior is just about dry now, all nice and clean, or at least a lot cleaner than it was. I've never actually used a pressure washer on the inside of a car before. I've washed the floorboards out plenty of times. Usually I just do it the same way I would the exterior, just with a soft bristle brush. But since this is a gambler car and we're not too concerned about it, I just went ahead and pressure washed it because it was a lot faster. It's not going to harm the car at all. This airbag module was the lowest module in the car. Everything else is pretty high up, and as long as you don't get any of that stuff wet and everything's nice and dry before you try to start it or anything, it'll be fine. So it's not going to hurt the car at all. This wire is why the passenger seat won't slide back and forth. The clips on the end have come undone, so when you pull on the lever, it doesn't disengage that rail all the way. Fixed. So this is the cap for the transmission, and on these models it also doubles as the breather. You can see there's a hole down there, and then it breathes through the little hole there. That's no good for fording water though, because if it reaches the top of the transmission, it's going to get in, and it's nearly impossible to get the milkshake out once that happens. So I'm going to plug up that hole, and I'm going to drill the top for this fitting, and then we can run a vent line up high so we don't get water in the transmission. So the modified transmission fill cap is done. Just tapped and added the fitting into the top, and then sealed off the original breather passages with gray RTV. That makes it a straight shot right through, all sealed up. So now you just put a little 1/4 inch tube on that, route it up high, and the transmission will be able to breathe without ingesting water. So the mounts are on the bench, and you can see just how bad this one is. So this is a fluid filled bushing. I know that because if I push on this, you can hear it leaking out, and also if I turn it in a certain direction, the fluid leaks out, and you can see how the bottom section has just completely collapsed because that's what holds all the weight of the engine. And if you look, there's actually a bolt head in there, and it's supposed to line up with this hole, but it's so collapsed it's probably a good inch and a half lower than it's supposed to be. And the reason this is a problem for us is that the engine and transmission are now going to sit about an inch and a half lower than they should. And that means that it's actually sitting lower than the subframe right now, which makes it very vulnerable to hitting things and breaking things and then losing fluid and grenading the engine or transmission. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that. And then this is the torque arm. Now it looks fine at first, but this sleeve should actually be about here. It's hard to tell, but there's actually a gap between the rubber and the metal sleeve on this end because it's all just been pushed forward over the years. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to make these DIY polyurethane mounts. I'm going to use some window weld to fill in all the spaces so that they're nice and solid and not an inch or two lower than they should be. But first I need to get all the fluid that I can out of this one and get them all cleaned up so it will adhere. It's like popping a pimple with a drill bit. So I got the interior back in. I didn't record it because it's pretty basic, just bolting stuff back in. The only thing that's not in yet is the center console because I have not cleaned it yet. I did put the carpet in. We're just going to run this for now. There's no jute padding on it, which is the part that will hold moisture and grow mold and stuff. So even if this carpet does get wet, it should be all right. I welded some handles where the old recline levers used to be. So now that the recline functions will work on both seats, and this seat does now slide forwards and backwards, which is really nice because I could barely even fit in it before because it was so far forward. I've made a few modifications to the carpet, basically just cut out around stuff. That way, in the event I want to remove this carpet in the future, I just take the seats out, 8 bolts, pull the seats out, and then the carpet will come out. I don't have to remove the center console, seat belts, or all that stuff. I also cut some access holes. I went ahead and I added some rubber plugs to the drain holes I made earlier. So now, in the event that water does get in here, I can just pop that plug out, drain all the water out, and it'll be good to go. And with all that done, that's about it on the interior, at least until I start modifying things. Now I know everybody's going to ask me about the big thing, which is the smell. Now of course I'll have to wait a few days after it's had a chance to sit with the windows up to know for sure, but as of right now the smell is 10 times better. It's not perfect. It does still have a tiny bit of a smell, but it doesn't smell like smoke or mold or anything that's going to make me sick anymore. At this point it just smells a little bit kind of like stale coffee, and it's not particularly strong, and honestly I can live with that. It's not going to make me sick. So I think we're good to go on the interior for now.